We stand today at the precipice of a new year, hovering on the razor's edge of a timeline that has been prophesied by indigenous elders and modern mystics alike. It is January 2026. Look around you. Look beyond the frantic headlines of the daily news and look instead at the fabric of reality itself. Do you feel it? That subtle humming vibration of anticipation in your chest. That quiet, persistent intuition telling you that the rules of the old world, the economic systems, the geopolitical borders, the very stability of the ground beneath our feet are beginning to dissolve like mist in the morning sun. You are not imagining it. You are not paranoid. And you are certainly not alone. Nearly 40 years ago, long before the internet became the nervous system of the planet, and long before the global turbulence of 2026 became our daily reality, a woman in Arkansas sat in a quiet room induced to some nebulistic trance in her clients and began to map the future. Her name was Dolores Cannon. To the skeptics, she was a writer of science fiction. To the desperate, she was a healer of the lost. But to the history of human consciousness, she was a choreographer. She was a time traveler who found a back door into the universal supercomputer. And she brought back a file marked the New Earth. For decades, we have treated her work as metaphor. We thought the shift was a poetic way of describing a change in attitude. We thought the splitting of worlds was an allegory, but the geological data of late 2026, the spiking Schumann resonance, and the undeniable fracture in our collective reality suggests that we have finally arrived at the destination she saw. The year 2026 is not just another number on the calendar. According to the Dolores Cannon archives, it represents the point of divergence, a moment where the Earth herself stops whispering and starts moving. Today we are not talking about past life regression. We are not talking about nostalgic stories of yesterday. We are opening the final dossier of Dolores Cannon's Earth change prophecies. We are going to look at the map of the world that she saw through the eyes of thousands of subjects. A map that looks drastically different from the one hanging in our classrooms. Today we are going to examine the specific warnings for the coastlines, the fate of the old power structures, and the mechanics of the separation. And perhaps most importantly, we are going to answer the question that keeps millions of awakened souls awake at night. Where do I go to be safe? The answer is not what you think. It is not a bunker. It is not a farm in the mountains. It is something far more profound and far more demanding. But to understand the safety, we must first understand the storm. Why should we listen? Why should we trust the visions of a hypnotherapist who passed away in 2014 over the AI models and government reports of 2026? Because Dolores Cannon had a track record that defies statistical probability. She did not guess. She accumulated data points. In the 1980s, when computers were still primitive calculators, her subjects described a worldwide web of light that would connect every mind on Earth, instantly accessing all information. A perfect description of the Internet decades before it existed. They predicted the current medical renaissance of frequency and sound healing, moving away from chemical pharmaceuticals. They described the 3 waves of volunteers, souls coming from other dimensions to assist Earth, which perfectly explains the feeling of alienation felt by millions of starseeds and lightworkers today. Furthermore, her work uncovered a chilling historical parallel that explains exactly why we are facing this crisis now. Through her sessions, she accessed the basic records of Atlantis. Her subjects described a civilization that reached a peak of technological prowess very similar to our own in 2026. They had genetic engineering. They had mastered energy through crystals. And they had a form of artificial intelligence. But they lacked spiritual maturity. They allowed their technology to outpace their consciousness. They used the great crystal, the Tihuay stone, for warfare and control rather than healing. This misuse of energy created a karmic ripple that destroyed their continent. Dolores warned that we have now circled back to that exact same point in the cycle. We are standing where Atlantis stood just before the fall. The shift is not just a random event. It is the universe giving us a second chance to get it right. To choose consciousness over destruction. She accessed the subconscious, the part of the mind that is connected to the source, the part that exists outside of time. And the file she read for our timeline was a file of radical transformation. She called it the separation of worlds. And she warned that this separation would be physical, literal, and unavoidable. But she also gave us a key to understand why this is happening. So we don't fall into the trap of fear. Before we look at the map, we must put on the lens of the initiate. We must understand the cosmic mechanics that drive these events. Without this understanding, what comes next looks like an apocalypse. With it, it looks like a birth. The first principle we must grasp is that the Earth is not a rock. She is a sentient entity. Dolores was explicit about this. The planet has a soul. And just like a human body, the planetary body is undergoing an evolution. For millennia, Earth has been a school of duality, a place of heavy, dense lessons in karma, war, and limitation. But the school year is over. The Earth has chosen to graduate. She is moving her vibrational frequency from the third dimension, the realm of fear and density, to the fifth dimension, the realm of love and instant manifestation. This is not a political decision. It is a physical vibrational shift, and this shift operates on the law of physics. Two objects of different densities cannot occupy the same space at the same time indefinitely. This brings us to the core of the 2026 prophecy, the mitosis of the planet. Just as a cell divides into two identical but separate cells, the Earth is splitting. One version of Earth, the old Earth, remains anchored in the density of fear, control, and collapse. This is the world of the headlines, the wars, the crumbling financial systems. The other version, the new Earth, is spinning off into a higher frequency. It is a world of peace, of restored nature, of telepathy and unity. But how does a planet physically split? Dolores's subjects often spoke of a trigger event, a solar flash, or a massive pulse of energy from the central sun. This is supported by modern astrophysics, which confirms we are in a period of intense solar maximum. This incoming light is not just heat. It is information. It is coding. It strikes the Earth's core and accelerates the vibration of every atom on the planet. For those whose bodies and minds are prepared, this solar energy acts as an upgrade, activating dormant DNA strands. For those holding on to fear and density, this same energy feels chaotic and destructive. It causes the tectonic plates to shift, the volcanoes to erupt, and the weather to spiral. The natural disasters are essentially the Earth shaking off the old dead skin to reveal the new form underneath. Right now in January 2026, these two worlds are still superimposed like two images on a transparency sheet that are slightly out of alignment. That is why the world feels so chaotic, so surreal. We are walking in two worlds at once. But in 2026, the distance between them begins to widen. The bridge is breaking. And the geological changes we are seeing, the earthquakes, the volcanic activity, the shifting magnetic poles are the physical symptoms of the separation. They are the birth pages of the new Earth pulling away from the old. Now take a deep breath. We are going to open the file. We are going to look at the specific geographical warnings the subconscious gave for this transition. This is the map of probability. But it is a probability that is hardening into reality with every passing day. Let's begin with the United States, the center of the modern Atlantean experiment. Dolores's subjects were consistent. The map will be redrawn. They saw the water reclaiming the land not as a punishment but as a cleansing. Water in metaphysical terms represents emotion. It represents the subconscious. The rising tides are the Earth cleansing the heavy stuck emotions of human history. The coastlines, particularly the East Coast and the West Coast, are the areas of highest population density and crucially the highest density of stress, ambition, and material attachment. They are the headquarters of the old Earth matrix. The prophecy suggests that these areas will face the most dramatic changes. It is not just about ice caps melting. It is about the land itself shifting to shake off the weight of karma. However, the vision of the map was not entirely bleak. There were areas that glowed with safety. The subjects described the center of the country, the spine of the continent, as the safe zone. Specifically, they pointed to the mountainous regions of the Ozarks and the Rockies. Why there? It is not just about altitude. It is about geology. These regions sit atop massive deposits of granite and quartz crystal. In the new frequency, these crystals act as anchors. They stabilize the ground and hold the 5D grid in place. Communities that form in these crystal-rich zones will find themselves protected almost as if by an invisible shield while the rest of the world shakes. The safety granaries that Edgar Cayce spoke of align perfectly with these crystalline safe zones seen by Dolores. But Dolores added a crucial detail that distinguishes her from other prophets. She said that in the new Earth, The geography is less about where you are and more about what you see. This brings us to the most controversial and mind-bending part of her prediction, the blind spot. In the final stages of the shift, the separation between the two Earths will become so complete that they will literally become invisible to each other. This is the twist that baffles the logical mind. Dolores explained that as your frequency rises, you simply stop vibrating at the same rate as the catastrophes. You might be living in a city that, on the old Earth timeline, is experiencing chaos. But in your reality, in your timeline, you are in a bubble of peace. The chaos might be happening over there, but it cannot touch you. Eventually, the two realities will phase out of each other completely. You will simply stop seeing the people and the structures that are anchored in the old density. They will vibrate out of your perception. This explains why in 2026 it feels like we are living in parallel realities. You can talk to a neighbor or a family member and it feels like they are living on a different planet. They are consuming different information, feeling different emotions, seeing a different world. That is because they are. The split has already occurred in consciousness. 2026 is when it begins to manifest in matter. So we have the map. The coasts are changing. The realities are splitting. The timeline is accelerating. I know how this feels to hear. I know the instinct that is rising in your gut right now. It is the survival instinct of the 3D body. It is the voice that says, I need to sell my house. I need to move to the mountains. I need to buy gold. I need to build a bunker. That is a natural human reaction. But it is the reaction of the old Earth. And Dolores Cannon did not come to give us old Earth solutions. In the thousands of hours she spent communicating with the Source, she asked the question, how do we survive? What should we do? The answer was never, buy guns and ammo. The answer was always, without exception, raise your vibration. This is the most important thing you will hear in this entire video. The map we just looked at is a physical reflection of a vibrational truth. You have authority over your personal experience. The ultimate safe zone is not a place on a map. The ultimate safe zone is your frequency. If you are vibrating at the frequency of fear, of panic, of every man for himself, you act as a magnet for the crumbling timeline of the old Earth. You could be sitting in the deepest bunker in the safest state in America. And the fear you hold will attract the very destruction you are trying to escape. Fear is the anchor that holds you to the sinking ship. But if you shift your frequency, if you align yourself with the frequency of the new Earth, which is love, service, and unity, something miraculous happens. You become invisible to the storm. Dolores spoke of this protection often. She called it being in the eye of the hurricane. The world around you may be swirling, but your immediate reality remains calm. You will be guided. You might get a sudden urge to turn left instead of right, missing an accident. You might feel a pull to move to a new town for no logical reason, only to find it becomes a sanctuary. You might lose a job only to be instantly redirected to your soul's true purpose. This is not luck. This is alignment. We are entering the age of Aquarius. The energy of this new age is about intuition and vibration. The old way of surviving was to build walls. The new way of surviving is to build consciousness. If you are watching this video in January 2026, while the world feels like it is spinning off its axis, it is not an accident. You are not a victim of this timeline. You are a volunteer. You are one of the 3 waves Dolores spoke about. You answered the call to be here. You came with a specific mission, not to be swept away by the chaos, but to hold the light while the old structures fall down. You are the stabilizing rods in the nuclear reactor of transformation. So do not look at the map with terror. Look at it with understanding. The Earth is changing her skin. She is preparing a new garden and she needs gardeners. That is your job. We are going to make a choice right now. A choice that is more powerful than any physical preparation. We are going to choose our timeline. Do you choose the timeline of fear, collapse, and separation? Or do you choose the timeline of the new Earth, of evolution, and of light? If you are ready to be a part of the solution, if you are ready to stand as a pillar of light in 2026, regardless of where you live, I want you to make a declaration. Go to the comments below and write these words. I am ready for the new Earth. Let this simple sentence be your contract with the universe. Let it be the signal that tells your guidance system, I am awake. I am choosing the timeline of ascension. Lead me to where I need to be. And listen closely because this journey is just beginning. The map we discussed today is just the surface. Beyond the geographical changes, there is a biological change happening right now inside your body. Dolores predicted that as we shift to the new Earth, our physical bodies would change from carbon-based to crystalline-based structures. This process comes with specific symptoms. Ringing in the ears, exhaustion, heart palpitations that doctors cannot explain. In our next video, we are going to declassify the Ascension Symptom Checklist. We will explain exactly what is happening to your DNA and how to navigate the Ascension flu without medical intervention. You do not want to miss that. Make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you have turned on notifications. The year 2026 is coming. The map is changing. But remember, you create your reality. Stay in the light. Be the calm. And I will see you on the new timeline.